everybody and welcome to today's tutorial. We are in the studio with lovely Lucy. We are going to be doing some beauty style headshots and we're going to introduce a colour gel. Now this is going to be a 5 light setup, so as always I'm going to show you through one light at a time. So let's start with the background light. Now let's begin with this background light, and as I said, we're going to be gelling the background. So it's actually just shooting at white paper, but the colour gel that I'm using is the Rose Pink from Profoto. Of course, doesn't matter what brand you use, but if you want to completely match what we're doing, Rose Pink is the one that we're going for. Now, what I've done here is I've attached it to the light and I've hidden the light behind Lucy. So it's literally right behind her. And what it's going to do is basically we're going to have a little bit of a gradient because, of course, as we know, we always get hot spots in the middle and then it sort of filters out a bit. But actually, I kind of like that effect. Now, what we need to do first is establish an exposure for that background light so we're getting the colour that we want. So let's do that first. So now we've got the background light in position. You can see I put the modeling light on so you can see that pink sort of halo effect that's going on. That's the gel. Ignore the beauty dish in the front, that is off for the moment. So the first thing we want to do is just take a shot in the background, just that light. It's almost going to be like a silhouette because there's nothing on Lucy. In terms of settings, I'm at 1/125th of a second, f4 and ISO 100. I'm going for quite a tight beauty headshot here, so it's going to be quite close up. So let's have a look here and take this shot here. Perfect as you are, Lucy. As I say, probably going to be a silhouette, so it's fine. Excellent. Let's have a look here. Okay, great. So actually, that's quite, in terms of exposure, that's pretty good right now because it's actually very pink and I don't really want it that pink in the long run. So with gels, it's like you get more saturation when the power is lower and there's more shadows to fill. When there's shadows, it gets more saturated basically. But I know what's going to happen when I introduce my key light. We're going to introduce then more white light, which is going to sort of neutralize this effect and make it not as pink. So at least I think for now, I'm quite happy with that exposure and the color on the backdrop. So now let's have a look and add some side lights. Great, so now what I've done is introduce 2 rim lights or side lights, whatever you want to call them. And the idea with these is that I just want to kind of make it a little bit like a nice little pretty highlight on Lucy's hair on each side. I want it to be quite even. It will just give it that extra little bit to make it quite glossy, so her hair will be highlighted on that side. I want them both to be even as well. I don't want one to be hotter than the other, so I'll try to be careful with my placement. They both have inside a 20-degree grid, so that's going to control the light and focus it so it just hits the targeted area of the side of the hair and it's not going to sort of spill into places where I don't want it to be. So just so we can see what everything is doing, I'm actually going to turn off the backlight with the gel on and just take a shot with just the side lights, those rim lights, so we can see how it looks. Now both of those are in place, I'm quite happy with how it's looking. The coverage is quite good. I just maybe want to keep an eye on the light to my left, so that camera left, just to make sure it's not too hot on Lucy's shoulder when we put everything on together. I don't want to have any sort of real bright hot spots. But that's easy, I can just control the power and take it down a little bit if it's looking too hot. So that's good. So maybe let's take a look and see what that looks like. If I turn the background light back on, let's have a look and see what those side lights, those rim lights and that background light looks like. Yeah, so it's slowly coming together. I find when you're sort of trying to light up a background like this, especially with the colour, it tends to work well for me to start with the background and sort of work your way forwards. As I say, I know that that background light and that colour and the saturation of that gel is going to change, but for the moment, that's looking pretty good. So next thing, of course, is to light up Lucy. So what I've got here is a silver beauty dish. I've got this on a boom arm. It's been there the whole time, just you don't need to see me rig that up. So it's a silver beauty dish and I've got a grid on the front. That is to make sure I can control the amount of white light that's going to spill onto the backdrop, because whilst I'm quite happy for it to be filtered down a little bit by the white light to take the colour of the gel away, I don't want it to completely wash it out, if you see what I mean. I've got it in a butterfly position, so it's straight across and straight down Lucy's nose, so it'll push those shadows down underneath the face. So, as always, let's turn the other lights off and just do the key light and see how that looks. Right, so let's take a quick test shot here. Good. Okay, that's looking pretty good exposure-wise. I might be tempted to maybe push it up a little bit because perhaps, let me have another look. I might want it to be a little bit brighter, but what I do know is that I'm going to be adding a fill light. That is not going to be my final light. So I'm going to be adding another fill light from underneath first. So until they're all in balance together, at the moment, that's looking like a good exposure for just the key light on Lucy. So final thing now, let's add in the fill light from underneath to make that clamshell effect. So that's our final light in place now. This is a 1x3 strip box, just facing up underneath Lucy's chin, which is basically, as we said, acting like a fill light to fill those shadows. But what I'm going to do, so we know what we're looking at all the time, I'm going to turn off the key light from the beauty dish and let's just have a look at that fill light. This is where it's quite important because we don't want to make it too bright. The idea is that it just fills the shadows. If it's really too strong, it will start to sort of undo it and look all a bit weird. So we just want a little hint here from this one from underneath. So let's take a quick look at just that on its own. Thank you, Lucy. Let's take a look at that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Might be tempted to turn it down just a little bit, because again, as I say, I don't want it to be sort of too bright. Now I'm going to take it down one stop there, so let's have another look here. Excellent. Yeah, that's looking better to me, because as I say, the last thing that we want to do is make the up light too strong, that fill light too strong. It is literally just a fill. So let's put them all on together and see what we have. We may need to make slight adjustments because of course now everything's on together. We might just want to sort of tweak them a little bit, but let's see what we get all together. Perfect, thanks Lucy. Wonderful. Lovely. Let's take a quick look at that. Excellent, that's looking really nice. Let me just check that shoulder, as we were talking about earlier. It's okay, it actually works okay for me now. I think that's good, lovely. Perfect, wonderful. I'll just mostly just come in a bit closer. Now on your side there, could you just run your hand through your hair? Just you've got a little basset perfect, we had a couple of strokes, that's it.
That's right.
That's all right, we can deal with that, that's perfect. Thank you, Lucy. Excellent, really close, love it. Beautiful, make your chin down a tiny, tiny bit. Excellent. Shoot some landscapes as well. Gorgeous, well done. Oh, sorry, that's a bit quick. Excellent, that's nice, really lovely. So now that we've got all the lights on together and the key lights are going to be working with that gelled background light, let's take a look and see how the brightness and saturation of that pink has been affected. So let's take a shot and see if it's faded down a bit to more of a sort of candy pink rather than that deep fuchsia. Perfect, Lucy. Thank you. So now that all those lights are on together, you can see that the saturation of that background light has been affected by our key lights in the front. So just remember that when you're setting up your background light, perhaps you might want to go for a bit more saturation. So take that power down on that gel so that it's looking a bit more saturated, so that you know when your key lights come on, they're not going to wash it out completely, but you're still going to have some colour there. So there we have it, guys. That is how you can use 5 lights to create quite a commercial looking beauty headshot. Nice and clean looking, and really you don't need a whole host of different colour backdrops. You can do it with a gel. So hopefully that's given you some ideas on how to take a commercial beauty portrait.